I was walking out of a department store about 5 years ago. A man ran past me, followed closely by two store employees. They shouted for the man to stop, tackled him to the ground, and then brought him back into the store. Before that time, I hadn't really thought about shoplifting, but since then I've done some research, and I have learned in an article by Kathy Keene entitled UF Survey Shows Retail Theft Has a Multi-Billion Impact on the U.S. Economy. She states that shoplifting accounts for a loss of about $31.3 billion in the United States alone. It's not uncommon for individual stores to see losses of $200,000 a year or more. 4 years ago, I married my husband. He has managed loss prevention and retail fraud investigation for the last several years. Because of his work, I have been able to see how widespread and serious theft is for businesses. I have learned that when theft occurs, the money lost comes from the business profit, and that loss is transferred to the consumer. If the store loses $200,000, it needs to make that back by either increasing prices or decreasing expenses, such as wages. Shoplifting raises prices, decreases jobs, and increases criminal activity. If we can stop this theft, we will better our economy and our communities. That's why I'm going to tell you a little bit about why we should prevent this type of theft in our communities and what its impact really is. One of the ways shoplifting adversely affects business is that it reduces profitability for businesses. Most businesses run on a margin, which is the difference between the cost to buy the merchandise and the price that they can sell it. Operational expenses, wages, employee benefits, and taxes are all paid out of the money made from the margin. Any extra income made from the margin goes to raising wages, increasing the amount of employees, improving the business, or expanding the company's selection of merchandise or type of service. Shoplifting is an extra expense to the company and hinders its ability to grow. The cost of the merchandise stolen is taken from the profit margin, as if it were an expense, and the result is slower growth or inability to sustain the current level of expenses. Because shoplifting results for slower growth and sustenance of a store, it harms the job market. As a business tracks its fiscal performance, it relies on the expenses being constant. From the retail website Retail Minded, in an article called Retail Theft and Inventory Shrinkage, I learned that if a business can predict its sales compared to expenses, it can increase necessary expenses to drive sales, like increasing employee hours and pay to have better in-stock and better service for the customers. If the business is losing money in an unpredictable way, like theft, it will need to control the loss before it can improve the business. Most of the time, controlling the loss means another expense to the company, like a person to control the loss, or purchasing theft deterrents. Employing people for loss prevention uses wages that could have been used for operational needs. The implementation of anti-theft devices makes for an inconvenient shopping experience. For example, you're going to the store to try to buy a memory card for your camera, but you can't because they're locked up, and you can't find any employees to unlock them because their hours have been cut, because they need to pay for the locking pegs that you leave open. Another element is making theft unpredictable is that it occurs in all parts of our world and involves all types of people, so preventing revolves mostly around limiting the opportunity to steal. If you can reduce the amount of shoplifting, it will reduce overall criminal activity in the area and improve the economy. Most of the people that my husband deals with are stealing to support some other type of criminal activity. Many are stealing to pay for drugs, and many make a business out of theft. In an article by Philip Perry entitled Dealing with Retail Theft, Tips for Keeping Shoplifters at Bay, Philip points out a specific type of inventory theft which is called Organized Retail Crime, or ORC. There are groups of people that make a plan to take specific merchandise for the purpose of resale and generally cause a substantial loss in one theft. For example, a group of 5 or 6 people will walk into a store, cause a distraction, and 2 or 3 of them will grab huge stacks of pants. Then they will leave, and that is a huge loss to the store. ORC groups often recruit young people to do the actual theft while they supervise. That could be your son or daughter who is approached by these criminals. This introduces our younger generation to theft at a much younger age. I think that this is also a huge contributor to delinquency. If theft is less of an opportunity for people, it will not be available to fund other criminal activities. If people aren't able to steal to make money for drugs or steal merchandise to sell, then they will not be as able to operate in our community. They will not be as able to introduce these activities to our younger generations either. We owe it to ourselves and to our communities to do whatever we can to recognize and prevent theft. According to Sherry Waters in her article, Spot the Shoplifter, How to Identify Retail Theft, she states that we can't always tell who is capable of theft. It occurs regardless of gender, race, religious affiliation, or income. When we reduce theft, we see an increase in jobs and a decrease in overall cost.